Okay.
Making sure you have all the,
Yeah, I haven't done it in a while. It's,
what happens when you haven't done it for a bit?
It's been a while, so.
And you might just go check just to see if somebody comes in as a participant instead of a panelist. Just kind of watch that. They're going like crazy and we're just scrambling right now. We're down 5 employees and we're just,
Was up on their green
uh-huh.
last week.
Still waiting, Stephen.
Call to order. This is the Township of Newtown Finance Committee meeting for May 15th, 2024. Call the meeting to order. I will do a roll call. Member Fisher. Here. Member Sukas. Here. Member Naples here. Member Pascal, I do not see. And member Trotter, I do not see. They may arrive later.
Just for the record, John Weaver's online.
Got it. John Weaver online. Okay, good. Stand for a moment of silence, pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is consider approving the agenda for this meeting. Need a motion? So moved. Second. We'll say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Minutes. We need to consider approving the minutes from the March 20th, 2024 meeting. Yes. What's it? So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No opposed? Good. Reports.
Yes. So, I assume you all know, because we didn't meet in April, I'm not 100% sure. Everybody's aware that Yvonne, has left. I can't remember if I was able to share that with you at the March meeting.
Yeah.
So we are down the finance person again. And so, we have brought in, an auditing company or an accounting company to help us do the books. They've been in this week for the first time, kind of trying to help us get our hands around some stuff and get ready for the audit and also get some reports out. So I suspect we'll start having reports again, probably official reports probably in the June timeframe. But I wanted to see where we were in comparison to the last couple of years. I went back and I loaded into a spreadsheet the numbers from 2022, 2023, and so far in 2024, comparing April's numbers, and those are, they're not finalized, but it was give me an idea of where we were, and I would have a good thing, a good understanding. So wanted to talk about a couple things that I see as maybe like things that I'm watching and concerns that my gut has already told me that I have to watch. But there's a couple things, but I want to talk in general. First of all, in revenues, in 2022, at this point in the year, we had collected 68% of the revenues. In 2023 and 2024, both years we collected 64%. So we're kind of within that range. So that's the good news. The real estate tax collection is actually down. It was 96% in 2022, 96 in 2023, and it was 92% in 2024. So I did a very quick look at this. I think almost, if not all, but a good portion of that's related to interims. I think the county's behind on interims. I haven't seen much of anything come in from the county this year. So I'm hoping that that's part of it. I think the other thing is we don't have a lot that finished in the first part of the quarter of 2020 or in the first part of this year for 2024. I think we're going to have a lot more as Ellis is finishing up, and we'll start seeing more interims come in at that point. So I'm not panicking. It's just the timing, I think, but I'm watching it. I mean, in regards to where it is. The two areas that I'm probably more concerned about are real estate tax transfers or real estate transfer tax and LST tax. In 22, we had collected 31%. In 23, we collected 25% on the real estate transfer tax. At this point in the year, we've only collected 15. And just to kind of put that in perspective, the other 2 years we anticipated collecting $1 million, roughly. I've had cut that number back to 850,000. So we're kind of in that. Would you go shut that door, please? So we're kind of in that area of like I want to watch that pretty closely. But if you look at what's going on, I'm not surprised. Like if you look at what's happening in the market, houses aren't staying on long. There's just not a lot of houses listed.
Yeah, not a lot of inventory.
Not a lot of inventory. I've talked to a couple realtors. they don't see a major change happening in that unless something major, changes in the market some way or another. So I suspect we could see a number there that doesn't get to its potential, this year.
Steve, could we could stay with that? When you did the 2020, we'll go back to 2022 budget,
Yep,
versus actual
we were at 31%.
for the whole year. For
No,
2022.
I was looking at the first 4 months.
I'm getting at the whole year.
Yeah, I
looking
didn't
at
run that right in front of me, but I think we did hit it, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so I realized you were scaling down the budget expectation on transfer taxes. I was wondering whether or not we hit that scale down number. And then is it too early to look at the whole year of 2023 budget versus actual?
I have we're pretty set. We're doing some final entries right now, getting ready for the audit. We're pretty close. So the number, if I can't do it on this computer, I can do it the one upstairs, but I could probably run that number and get it to you. I didn't do what the end of the year ended, but we were pretty close on both real estate transfer tax. I mean, like we were within 100,000.
Okay.
If I remember right.
So it wasn't way off. So you're still thinking this could be timing as compared.
Well, this year, I'm not so sure it's
2024.
this year. In 2024, I'm wondering if my 850 was not still a little too aggressive.
Okay.
And so we're gonna watch that closely. I mean, obviously, we know that most sales happen between June and August. People do that before school year starts. And so, and then we get the last hit of it usually in September, early October because we don't collect the money. It's collected by the state or the county, and then comes to us. And so, I suspect that I'm just gonna be watching, like, does this trend stay the same? And I'm also watching what we see coming in regards to, transfer list. The number is down, not only is the amount down.
Got it.
So nothing that we weren't thinking happening. It just may be greater down than what I had initially anticipated. Local services tax, in 2022, we had collected 27%. By this point in 2023, we collected 24. This year we collected 18. So it's not a huge drop, but it is enough that it's another one of those that my eyes are watching it. I'm a little concerned in that what I had heard was happening, obviously is not happening, in that some of these companies in town were actually requiring more people to come back to work. If they were requiring them to come back to work, I would have expected this to go up. Or are we having something else happen that I'm not aware of? I will tell you, I've been watching obviously Campus Boulevard continues to be underutilized. I don't think that's going to change. I've talked to the landowners and the landlords there. Most of them are saying they don't think they're going to hit their capacity. I talked to one in particular. He said he's probably fully leased out what he can do because he's segmented off spots, and in the process of because of the way the building was designed, he's lost some square footage that he can rent because of how he's had to segment it off so that people could have access. And so he said he's about 90% capacity, but he's lost about 10% that he can't rent because of how he's had to segment off areas. And so I don't know whether he didn't plan out far enough or what happened, but that's what he was telling me. The others I'm talking to, there's just not a lot out there for that. I have talked to BPG. I haven't heard as recently, but they're telling me they probably are going to have about 200,000 square foot of space open, probably towards the end of the year.
Would there be an influx as the commercial
businesses in LS ramp up in terms of the LST, will we see an
I-
uptick in that?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I had taken that kind of into account this year, thinking that we would have somewhat of a recovery in that area. Most of those aren't gonna be fully open till the end of
Fourth quarter,
summer,
yeah.
and so we'll see what that does. But this number being down tells me that we still are having one of two things. People aren't paying, and I haven't had that conversation yet with our
Yeah, I was
tax
gonna ask,
collector.
Keystone, is Keystone?
I haven't had the conversation with Keystone yet.
Yeah,
But like I said, it's not a panic in any way, but it's definitely a trend that I'm watching.
so I was thinking about Keystone, can they give you any input?
Yeah,
on the
I'm
trend,
gonna have
what they're
another
seeing?
conversation with them, what they're seeing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
But overall, again, what I would tell you is like, and when it comes to total revenue, 68% versus 64%, we're pretty much on
Yeah.
target as total revenue. A lot of that, I would say, is coming in. We've gotten some of the, state grants already this year. And our interest in our fines are good numbers. So that's kind of what's holding us up, or propping us up in that way. And we've also, charges for services, those are up. Evidently, we're having, more people are using some of the stuff that we charge services for. So that's where those numbers are.
I'm presuming you're tracking permits as well in terms of.
Yeah,
when it
that's-
comes-
That's down, which is what I expected, but it's down more than I expected. So I'm
Okay,
still
so-
watching that.
So you got three trend indicators that are
yeah.
both yellow at this point.
Yeah, exactly. We're at 30% versus 40% that we had done in the past by this point. And a little bit, I think that's timing, because of when there's like, some of the buildings that are over on the Ellis Preserve are getting ready to be turned over to the tenants, and we'll see additional permits at those point, on those.
As they finish the
As they
inside.
finish the inside.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna be down, which is what I anticipated. I knew it was coming, I just didn't know what year. So on expenses, I will tell you, in 2022, we were at 30%. We had spent 30% at this point in the year. In 2023, we were at 25. This year, we're 2023. Looked at it. I think there's a couple things that are driving that. One is, I think, as I shared with you, we're down
Head count.
5 employees at this point, and 2 of those employees are pretty heavy, like they're significant. It's a police officer and our finance director. So that's part of it. And I've been without an administrative assistant since December. So, you've got some key positions, that are out in that way. The other thing that I would tell you, is, that when I look at most of the departments, if I take away the ones that are missing people, everything else looks like it's pretty much on target. It's moving along. And the monies that there was, Rich, when he was here, he had already done some of the transfers that have not been done yet. So like the 300,000 over for street, I haven't made that entry. I will do that here shortly. So those entries still need to get done. And once they get done, that will probably level that out a little bit closer in the expenses.
Do you have a timeline on when you think the final 2023 numbers? would be
We're
released?
hoping August for
Don't
the
wanna be
audit.
that far out.
Well, the audit, like a final
No, I was
audit
thinking
number.
about final numbers.
Oh,
to
I'm
hand to
hoping
the
within the
auditor.
next week or 2.
Okay,
Yeah, we're working on that right now.
okay.
I thought you were meaning
No,
the
no,
audit.
no, the audit that'll go on for a while. I was just thinking.
Yeah.
When you're saying, okay, we're done with what we need to do.
Yeah. So I'm going to back out April out of this, just for the purpose of doing a report to the board for the first quarter. Hopefully I'll have that for them at their next meeting at the end of May. I don't anticipate it being very different from what I just told you.
Yeah.
April wasn't any big move one way or another. I looked at it. So I anticipate what I just told you will be very similar to what I'll be telling them. And those numbers are pretty solid in that Yvonne had done all the bank recs and everything before she left through March. So I feel pretty confident in those. We're just now doing April's bank recs. Most of the entries have been made, but there's a few things that still need to be done.
Back in the meeting that we had in March, you had talked about really quiet in terms of any new projects other than some development up near Whitehorse. I'm presuming it's still quiet. You're not hearing any whispers in terms of anything of meaning.
Yeah, so there's nothing that's, I mean, there's the project on Sawmill that's 3 houses. So
Yeah.
that's not going to be, I don't think, I mean, we're
And
not,
those are big numbers too. They're looking for big numbers.
they're looking for big numbers, but
Yeah. But it's way off.
I mean, they haven't, I don't think they've broken ground
They've just
specific.
cleaned out some of the brush.
Exactly. They're getting ready, but they haven't dropped the house yet. Excuse me. I mean, I know of some things, but they're all small. Like there's a lot here on Bishop Hollow that's been created.
Okay,
a
so you
flag
have
lot.
one-offs, but
We have
nothing
some
where they're
one-offs,
looking
but
at
like a big development right at
even
the
a
moment.
dozen. You're not seeing anything like that.
I don't, I have three groups that are coming in for proposals. I don't know how long they're gonna take to go through, if they
Yeah,
even,
yeah.
and they're not by right projects. So they would need.
What do you mean by
variance.
that?
So a by right project means that if I look at the zoning and if I do everything exactly to what zoning says, it
Oh, okay.
becomes, it can become a by right project.
Okay, rubber stamp.
You know, it's more of, well, I don't want to go quite a rubber stamp, but the township can't stop the project at any point. Like, in other words, if you're going to build according to what the zoning says, we might be able to go through and have you make some adjustments, but we're not going to be able to say you can't build that. There's 3 projects right now that are trying to get before the board that would be things that are outside of zoning. They're trying to do more density than than our zoning allows. Those we can stop. I mean, we can't, we can come back and say, no, you can't go forward with that. And so we're gonna have to see what that is. The board did change. So Campus Boulevard was set up that it was allowed for R5, which is, they call it senior adult housing. It's 55 and older. As I pass 55, I don't count that as senior adult housing anymore. But it's senior adult housing. And so they've actually changed the law on that. They took R5 out of Campus Boulevard, which reduces the allowed density in that area, and it reduces that actually having residential. However, two of the landowners over there put in plans prior to that ordinance being passed. Once they advertised it, but before they passed it. So I don't know what, like, will there be an agreement that we get to on that? There will be something, but what does it look like? I don't know yet. And I don't know how quickly they'll pull the trigger once they've come to an agreement, because they would be tearing down buildings. It would be a major change over there if they do that. So I would suspect at the earliest, we would see something happen in 2025, but we probably wouldn't see anything. We wouldn't see any real permits and things like that and building happening probably until 2026 or 2027.
Mhm.
And I've been talking with the other landowner in town who has all the big stuff.
Radio silence with Claude.
I mean, they're not radio silence, but there's nothing that they have that I hear them coming in with saying we're ready to do something. They're talking about lots of things, but I don't have there's nothing that's solid that they're ready to present a plan on. Right now, the only plan that I know of that's like before the planning commission, I think is I think there's 3 single lot kind of things.
Thanks.
Is that's, there's nothing that's multiple lots. Yeah. So that's kind of my report, a little bit longer than I anticipated, but any other questions that you all have?
I have one. At the school board meeting, the business administrator expressed some concern about revenues being impacted by tax appeals. Is
Yeah.
that not something that you're concerned about?
It's not that I'm not concerned. I am concerned. Obviously, on the school district, it's a bigger number than it is for us. And we've had some tax appeals that have impacted pretty heavily. And I am watching that, but I had kind of anticipated a couple of those in my thoughts for 2024. They've ended up being bigger than what I anticipated. And there's a couple appeals that are still out there, and I don't know what those are going to do, and that may have a bigger impact. But what I hadn't anticipated was the number of them. There are more and more coming in. And
Does it
so
relate back to the county reassessment?
what I understand is, and I am not, this is one area that I kind of get it, but there are people that get this a lot better than I do. Kurt Silva is a really good person to talk to on this if you want a really good understanding of what's happening. When the ratio gets to a certain point, there's a spot where you can when you can appeal, and it's almost guaranteed that you'll get a reduction. And we're above that ratio, and so therefore, or below that ratio, I forget. And so like this, as people are going and doing the appeals, they're getting significant reductions, which has been very interesting because I haven't seen housing prices drop. You know, when I look at housing prices, I've looked around, and it seems to me that housing prices have only gone up in Newtown. They haven't gone down. But somehow when you're comparing it to the rest of the county, it's driving that number down a little bit. So. But yes, I'm concerned, but I'm not panicked at this point. But that's a good point.
Larry, you good?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. In terms of the finance director position, then I'm presuming you've got that out posted.
I do. I give you a quick, without going into a lot of detail, just because we're in the process, but I think we've had 7 applications. I will be reaching out to several of them to see if they were at least worth interviewing. I will tell you one of them, 2 of them were in our last round, and so they've reapplied. We will probably bring them back in for interviews. We're just trying to decide who else to bring in. And nothing like being in the dark. What I will say on that is that as I talked out, I was a little disappointed in the number that we got. And there's not a lot of people out there with significant government experience.
Right. Are we good with old business? One of our topics we had kicked around was submissions to the newsletter, and when I went back and looked, I didn't come up with whether or not we had a defined action, like person A is going to do this submission by this point, person B is going to do submission by this point. I wanted to open that up for the 3 of us, and or we could nominate Scott and Lisa since they're not here for a submission. Thoughts?
Well, I talked to, and they're willing to put in that magazine, they're willing to put or create anything, put it in it. It's just got to be, you know, apolitical and factual anyway.
Yeah.
Do anything, get more circulation, or at least more eyeballs than we would be.
Do you have a thought, Alex, as to like a topic?
Yeah, I did, at the last meeting, I mentioned it, well, what was it?
Alex, is your microphone on?
Well, I'm over 55.
Not a day over.
It was, oh, yeah, it was the topic of explaining, like, when we have a huge new development, why it doesn't,
Fall all into the township.
like, why the township isn't suddenly swimming in money as people seem to think, right? Like,
Yes.
because, you know,
Yeah, that's. the
we have
perception.
expenses that offset some of the income, and the income's not as much as people think.
Right.
Yeah, that was a topic that I
Okay, so
said
you-
I would,
You gonna nominate for that?
yeah,
All right,
I'm lazy about it, but yeah, I could do it.
all right, twisting the arm. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
oh. Larry, I'm thinking I'm gonna nominate you, because I asked Steve a question about when 2023 numbers are final. Maybe you could do a snapshot of that as a submission after Alex does his.
Take a look at it, sure.
That would be in the fall.
Well, it could be in the summer, but I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
we
not sure
wouldn't
the
have to
time.
wait to the audit. Yeah, we
Yeah.
could, yeah. Oh, okay. I want,
Well, I don't think the audit is gonna
no,
impact
no,
our
that's what I
final
mean.
numbers.
That's right.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, so I'm thinking once the board signs off on the the township.
Well, they won't sign off on the 2023 numbers until we do the audit. That does.
Okay,
But I mean, I'll have numbers that we get and we submit to the audit and we'll have a pretty good idea that they're solid.
we
by
could,
that
we
point.
could
Yeah, we can
tag
look
in
at
the
those
preliminary.
and see if we can, make it into
Yeah.
a, yeah.
Yeah, and that'd be good following what Alex is doing. I'm also thinking about trend analysis, specifically about permits and trend. But I want to hold off on that. Maybe we'll do that in the fall where Steve has a better idea. Look, this is what's really setting up now. We're into the heat. Maybe I'll nominate Lisa or Scott to do that. Those are something where it's starting to really percolate yellow like it's beaming. To start the dialogue process on that. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
And then I'm sure we can think of other stuff.
Oh.
I didn't bring it today, but I will make sure. Jamie doing this? Jamie, I'll make sure Jamie gets out to everybody, the schedule for the electronic newsletter, if you wanted to go in there.
Okay.
All right.
We have to talk about whether or not we think timing wise, should we do a meeting? Do we do a meeting in June, subject to tentative final 2023 numbers, or do we want to push to July? I'm sure if folks are around in July. That's what I'm kind of sensing it to.
I think we take the same approach. We leave it on the schedule. And then.
All right, so what I'll do is I'll circle back with you, Steve. And then we'll let people know whether or not there's gonna be a June meeting or not.
Yep. I right now, I will tell you, I don't know that there's going to be a high need for a June meeting right at the
Yeah.
moment. I am going to be starting the budget here soon. But I've got to get some bodies in some seats.
Yeah, right.
That is my highest priority.
Yeah.
And because everybody needs a little bit of rest until I get some bodies in seats. Everybody's kind of doing double duty. And so we just need to get that done.
Yeah, Stephen, I think, can you guys hear me?
Wasn't the need for a May meeting either,
Yeah.
but we'll see in August.
Oh, yeah, John?
Yeah, I was just going to note that
Turn up your volume a
I
little.
think it's going to be a challenge again to get our DCED, we've missed the deadline for the DCED report, correct?
Yeah, so DCD, usually we do April 1st. But because we're on the accrual method, the auditor told me that DCD understands that most of the time, most municipalities don't get that in until October.
Right, and I think I mean, we're gonna be struggling without a finance director to even hit that deadline. Hopefully, the accounting firm you're bringing in will have that ability, but I think just so that the finance committee and the board's aware that you're gonna be hard pressed to get the DCD report done and the audit before, the fourth quarter.
I'm hoping that's not the case, but you're right. My hands are full.
Yes.
The other, old business that we need to bring up? Public comment, I see crickets in the room, so we have no public comment, and we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.